Hey guys, Elvin Archer here, and today I'm showing you how to make 4 simple tarp shelters. Stick with me. Our first shelter is known as a plow point. To create a plow point, you're first going to take a ridgeline and run it from a tree, and then stake it to the ground. You're then going to lay your tarp over top and stake one corner of the tarp to the end of the ridgeline. Attach the other corner of the tarp to the ridgeline using a prusik knot, and then stake the two corners out. A very simple design that only takes a couple minutes to put together. Now the plow point is very versatile. It can be slung high to allow good airflow, or it can be slung low for less heat loss. But the main advantage of the plow point is just that it's so fast to set up. The plow point also provides a decent amount of room underneath for you and your gear, though it is rather limited by the size of your tarp. Just enough room to sit inside and read a book or work on a carving project, but you're not going to be able to do much. It's a pretty small and cramped shelter, even with a large tarp. Also, the end being so open causes a lot of splashing if it's raining, so you're going to want to add a second plow point right next to it, or choose a different shelter if the rain is bad. The next shelter is a bit of a cross between a tube tent and a plow point. You're just going to need a tarp, 3 stakes, and a trekking pole or stick. You're going to stake one corner of the tarp down, and then take the sharpened end of a trekking pole or long stick and put it toward the middle grommet of your tarp, then stake the two ends down tightly. You're then just going to pull the two corners into the tarp, and you're finished. This has no guy lines or any rope of any kind, and provides a good amount of room and shelter. The shelter can also be pulled up by its stakes if you need to get out quickly, and collapse down simply by pulling the pole out. So if you suddenly find that your tarp is blowing in the wind, you can pull that down and just hunker down for the rest of the night. It also has no guy line or ridge line, so it's not going to be tripping you up in the middle of the night like other shelters. The next shelter is called an A-frame shelter. Tie up your ridgeline horizontal to the ground at about waist height or a little higher, and then lay your tarp at its halfway point across the ridgeline. Whether you lay it on lengthwise or widthwise is up to you. It depends on the size of your tarp and the size of shelter you need. Next, you're going to tie 2 prusik knots to the ridgeline, and then attach them to the grommets, or in this case rope loops on the tarp. As you see, I just use a stick fed through the loop. Now you're just going to stake out the corners and your tarp is done. This is one of my favorite tarp shelters as it has plenty of room underneath for your gear and you, and provides a lot of space for the amount of tarp you have. So you can sit underneath and work on projects, cook your food, sleep, or just sit in quiet contemplation and postulate the mysteries of the universe. Our final tarp shelter, you're going to make that same ridgeline, this time string it a little bit higher. And then you're just going to connect 2 corners of the tarp to the ridgeline using the same prusik knots you saw before. Then you're just going to stake down the corners. And as you see, this creates a one-sided shelter. This is called a lean-to, and it has several variations, but this is the simplest one. As you see, it doesn't provide a whole lot in the way of shelter from blowing rain or any bad weather, but it does create plenty of shade, and you obviously have lots of room underneath for doing anything you may need to do around camp. And those are 4 simple tarp shelters. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I hope you decide to use some of these tarp shelters on future adventures. Please remember to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more content. But that's all I have for you today, guys. Archer out.